Okay, so picture this. You're a young woman
Mm-hmm.
in 1860s America,
Okay.
and you land a commission to sculpt
Wow.
the President of the United States.
For president.
But then you're hit with all this scrutiny and accusations.
Oh, wow.
That's the story of Vinnie Ream. She
Yeah.
was this groundbreaking artist who, at only 22,
22.
yeah, became the first and youngest woman to get a U.S. government art commission.
That's amazing.
So today we're going deep into her incredible journey,
Okay.
from sculpting presidents to navigating the, I don't know, kind of shady world of Washington politics,
Yeah.
and basically challenging what a woman could even achieve
Right.
in her time.
At that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really quite amazing.
Vinnie Ream's life is just so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like this mix of artistic brilliance, political maneuvering, and personal struggles all in one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
She really embodies the ambition, but also all the limitations that women faced back then.
Absolutely.
In the late 19th century.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning, to her early years.
Okay.
What do we know?
Wow.
Our sources say she was born in 1847
Okay.
in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
But get this, her family moved around constantly.
Really?
Yeah, all because of her father's work.
Oh, wow.
He was a surveyor.
A surveyor, I
So they were always on the move.
Right.
Which, on one hand, she was exposed to all these different landscapes and cultures.
Interesting.
But it also meant she didn't have much access to formal art education.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable that she was mainly self-taught.
Yeah, it is.
It really shows her natural talent and drive,
Absolutely.
Think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
No fancy art schools,
Right.
no big-name mentors early on.
Yeah.
But here she is, teaching herself guitar.
Wow.
In Kansas.
In Kansas.
Taking language and music lessons.
Wow.
In D.C.
That's incredible.
All while working at the post office.
No way.
Talk about a go-getter.
She was really driven.
Right.
Yeah.
And this drive is what leads her to this chance meeting that changes everything.
Okay.
Imagine you're a young, aspiring artist, and you just bump into Clark Mills.
Clark Mills.
Yeah, the sculptor famous for that equestrian statue of Andrew Jackson.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
He sees something in Vinnie, some potential, and takes her on as an apprentice.
That's amazing.
What a lucky break.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
But this apprenticeship wasn't just about learning to sculpt.
Right.
It was about being immersed in the whole art world.
Right.
She learned sculpting, bronze casting,
Wow.
all under the guidance of this master sculptor.
That's incredible.
And let's not forget, this is all happening in Washington, D.C.,
Right.
a city full of powerful figures.
Full of opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Vinnie, even at a young age, she's so savvy,
Yeah.
she understands talent isn't enough.
It's not enough.
No,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So she starts sculpting busts of prominent politicians
Guitar.
and building a network. That's going to become so important for her success.
Right.
It's like she was creating her own opportunity,
She was, yeah.
wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
And this brings us to her big break,
Okay.
the moment that launches her into the national spotlight.
Let's hear it.
In 1864,
1864.
at just 17 years old,
17.
she gets the incredible opportunity to sculpt President Lincoln from life.
Wow. 17.
Unbelievable.
Can you imagine having that kind of responsibility?
I can't even imagine.
It's mind-boggling, right?
It is.
And these weren't just any sittings,
Right.
This was about capturing the president's likeness.
Yeah.
A president burdened by the weight of war
A lot of pressure.
and personal grief.
Yeah.
Sources describe Lincoln as somber,
Makes sense.
sometimes even shedding tears during these sessions.
Oh, wow.
He preferred to walk around,
Really?
rarely stayed still,
Oh, gosh.
which must have made Vinnie's job even
Yeah.
more challenging.
Very difficult.
It's just such a poignant image to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This young woman,
Right.
barely an adult herself,
Mm-hmm.
trying to capture the essence of this man who's dealing with such huge responsibility and
Yeah.
sorrow.
It makes you wonder how that experience, that atmosphere,
Yeah.
might have influenced her work.
That shared experience, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is a fascinating thought.
It is.
But while this commission was definitely a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
it launched her into fame, made her the most sought-after artist in Washington.
It did.
But as we'll see,
Oh,
this newfound fame,
yeah.
it came with a bit of a double-edged sword.
That's usually how it goes, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because this is where the real drama starts.
Okay.
After Lincoln's assassination,
Right.
Vinnie wasn't content with just having sculpted him from life.
Oh, no.
She set her sights on something even bigger,
Oh, okay.
creating his memorial statue.
Wow.
And she wasn't going to let anything stop her.
I love that. What's amazing isn't just her ambition.
But her strategic brilliance.
Yeah.
Remember, this is a young woman in a field dominated by men.
Completely, yeah.
And she's going head-to-head with established artists
The best of the best.
for this really prestigious commission.
Wow.
So she writes directly to these influential congressmen.
Rapid move.
And get this.
Okay.
She drafts a petition
A petition.
that gets signed by 141 members of Congress.
Whoa.
We're talking Speaker of the House, cabinet members,
Oh, right
even
on.
General Grant and President Johnson himself signed it.
She got the president's signature.
Yeah, can you believe it?
That's amazing.
Makes you wonder, was she really that talented?
Right?
Or was she just incredibly good at playing the game?
At working the system.
The sources also mentioned she strategically gifted small sculptures
Oh, wow.
and flowers.
Interesting
Nothing.
politicians. So it's like she was mastering the art of persuasion
Right.
alongside sculpting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the question that followed her throughout her career.
What's that?
Was it talent or manipulation?
Right. That's a good question.
Because, not everyone was happy about this young up-and-comer
Right.
landing such a big commission.
Makes sense.
And the sources detail these intense congressional debates
Oh, wow.
surrounding the Lincoln Memorial Commission.
Okay.
Some argued that her lack of experience
Yeah.
made it too risky.
Too much of a risk.
Like
I could see that.
Senator Charles Sumner.
Yeah.
He was a powerful figure at the time,
He was.
and he was very vocal in his opposition.
Okay.
He was worried about giving such an important project
Right.
to someone so young and unproven.
Makes sense.
To understand Sumner's stance, though,
Okay.
we need to remember he was a radical Republican,
Oh, right.
a staunch abolitionist who often clashed with Lincoln.
Ah, I see.
So his opposition to Vinnie might have been tied to his political beliefs as well.
Interesting.
But Vinnie's supporters, they fought back. They emphasized her talent
Right.
and the importance of supporting American artists.
Especially a young woman.
Correct.
Making her
So-
mark in such a prestigious field.
Right.
It's a big deal.
But let's be real, there was also a lot of sexism going on.
Absolutely.
Some senators just couldn't wrap their heads around a woman
Yeah,
creating a great work of art.
that's true.
It's shocking to read some of the things they said.
Oh, yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah, for sure.
Senator Jacob Howard,
Yeah.
he made this crazy comparison.
What did he say?
He said a woman sculpting the Lincoln Memorial
Okay.
was as absurd as a woman leading an army
Wow.
or writing the Iliad,
Come-
basically saying it was impossible for a woman.
Oh my goodness.
It's a stark reminder of the prejudices Vinnie had to deal with.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
So she wins the commission,
She does?
but the controversy doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
No, it gets even worse.
Oh, no.
The scrutiny just grows. Vinnie becomes a target of relentless criticism in the press.
Oh, wow.
Newspaper articles question her qualifications,
Really?
implying she used her charm and connection.
Her charm,
Yeah,
not her talent,
right.
to get the commission.
It's like they couldn't accept that a young woman
Right.
could achieve this level of success on merit alone.
I know. It's so frustrating
They-
to see
yeah.
how she was portrayed.
It's just awful.
Some newspapers called her a handsome young woman
Oh, brother.
with extraordinary powers of persuasion,
Seriously.
as if her looks were her main tool.
It's just reducing her accomplishments to her
Yeah.
appearance
Right.
and her ability to manipulate men.
Exactly.
It's a classic example.
It is.
And we have to remember the context of the time.
Right.
The 1860s,
It's 1860.
societal expectations for women were so rigid.
Very different back then.
A young, unmarried woman
Mm-hmm.
working independently with powerful men
Right.
like Vinnie was,
Yeah.
it was unusual.
It was
and easy to scandalize.
easy to cause a stir.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the press she had to worry about.
Oh, no.
Even Mary Todd Lincoln.
Mary Todd Lincoln.
She had sat for Vinnie for a bust,
Right.
but was completely against her sculpting the Lincoln Memorial.
Oh, wow.
Mary Todd even tried to block Vinnie's access to Lincoln's belongings,
Jelly.
which she needed for the sculpture.
Wow.
She wrote these scathing letters about
I've
Vinnie,
seen letters.
questioning her abilities and motives.
Oh, my.
It's fascinating to see all these different personalities,
Yeah.
their opinions and prejudices,
It's like a clash.
all colliding in this story.
It really is.
So here's Vinnie
Yeah.
navigating this incredibly complex web of public scrutiny,
Right.
political maneuvering,
And now.
and now the disapproval of the former First Lady.
That's tough.
You have to admire her resilience.
You do.
How did she handle all this pressure?
I don't know, it's a lot. She was amazing at turning adversity to her advantage.
Right.
Despite all the attacks, the criticism,
Yeah.
she kept going with the Lincoln Memorial.
I mean, how did she even do it?
She set up a studio right in the Capitol building.
The Capitol building.
Wow.
But here's the interesting part.
Okay.
Instead of shutting out the public,
Yeah.
working in secret,
Right.
she embraced the scrutiny.
Oh, wow.
She practically turned her studio into a public exhibition.
You're right.
Yeah,
Our sources describe it as this bustling hub
exactly.
where people from all walks of life could just walk in, observe her work.
From war veterans to Supreme Court justices.
It's amazing.
It was a brilliant move.
It was.
Think about it.
Yeah.
At a time when she's being accused of, using shady tactics,
Right.
she opens her doors and invites the public in.
Wow.
It's like she's saying, judge for yourself.
This is my talent.
Yeah,
This is my work ethic.
exactly.
She's shaping public opinion,
She is.
not just the sculpture.
She understood the power of perception.
Right. But it also shows the constant pressure she was under.
Oh, yeah.
Every move, every decision.
Every stroke of the chisel.
Yeah.
Scrutinized, interpreted.
And of course, there were those who just wouldn't accept her success.
Right. There's always going to be those people.
One source even mentions a rumor
Without that.
that she was faking parts of the model.
Are you serious?
Can you imagine?
The nerve.
It's like they couldn't grasp that a young woman could actually have the skill, the knowledge to do this.
Yep.
But Vinnie didn't ignore these rumors.
Good for her.
She addressed them head on.
Okay, how?
She printed these handbills explaining her process,
Smart.
all the techniques involved in sculpting.
So she's educating the public
She is.
about her craft.
I love that she didn't just let people spread lies.
Me too.
Yeah.
She took control.
It shows real confidence.
It does.
But all of this is happening
Right.
against this backdrop of crazy political turmoil.
It was a crazy time.
The nation was still reeling from Lincoln's assassination,
Yeah.
dealing with Johnson's impeachment trial.
Right. The Reconstruction era.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So much upheaval.
And somehow Vinnie Ream,
Right.
she's right at the center of it all.
It's like her studio became this mini version
It did.
of the political drama happening outside.
Right, in the Capitol building.
The sources mentioned she was often part of
She was.
high-level discussions
Yes.
among the politicians visiting.
Think about the things she must have heard.
It's fascinating.
And then there's that rumor, never proven, but often repeated,
what is it?
that she influenced Senator Edmund Ross's vote
To acquit President Johnson.
during the impeachment trial.
Wow, really?
Whether it's true or not, who knows?
Right.
It shows the power she was perceived to have.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
A young, unmarried woman
Right.
with all these powerful men around her.
Her art becomes this symbol of national remembrance.
It's incredible.
It's no wonder she was both admired and feared.
Yeah, a threat to some.
Right.
An embodiment of female empowerment to others.
Exactly.
It's amazing how polarizing she was.
It is.
And maybe seeking a break from all the scrutiny.
Maybe.
She goes to Europe
Okay.
to have her Lincoln model recreated in marble.
I see.
It's like she needed to breathe,
Yeah.
get away from Washington.
Makes sense.
But of course, even in Europe,
What happens?
the drama followed.
Oh, no.
We can't forget about the scandal with General Albert Pike,
Albert Pike.
an older admirer, quite smitten with Vinnie, let's say.
Oh, boy.
Pike was head over heels for her
Really?
and incredibly jealous of her friendship with Congressman Samuel Marshall,
Samuel Marshall.
who was with her on this European trip.
Okay.
Pike even accused Marshall of not appreciating her genius.
Oh, wow.
It's frustrating, but not surprising,
I know.
that even in a different country,
Right.
she's still being viewed through this lens.
Of romantic entanglements.
It's like her talent, her accomplishments,
Always overshadowed.
by her personal life, her relationships with men.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a reality for many women in the public eye.
Even today.
Even today, yeah.
But despite all this,
He keeps going.
Vinnie continues to work,
She does.
traveling through Europe, sculpting busts of prominent figures.
Like who?
Franz Liszt,
Oh, wow.
General John C. Fremont,
Okay.
and the French preacher Père Hyacinthe.
She's meeting everyone.
She was
Constantly learning, honing her skills.
She even took painting lessons during this time.
Oh, she never stopped.
So here she is, in Rome,
Rome.
surrounded by this vibrant art scene.
Amazing.
It's interesting.
What is it?
This is the same city where Edmonia Lewis, another pioneering American woman sculptor, was working at the time.
Wow, both of them in Rome.
You'd think there would be some collaboration,
Yeah, you would think so.
mutual support.
It would be great.
There's no record of them directly working together.
That we know of.
But it's fascinating to imagine
I know, it is.
these two talented women
Navigating the art world.
facing similar challenges
Defying expectations.
in a field dominated by men.
Rome was a hub for American artists back then.
It was.
And for women like Vinnie and Edmonia,
Right.
it offered a sense of freedom
An opportunity.
that they didn't have back home.
Like they found a space to create
A space to breathe.
without the constant
And
judgment.
scrutiny.
But even in this seemingly perfect setting,
There were challenges.
there were.
Of course.
Or
Finding studio space.
Right.
Securing funding for the marble carving.
Logistics.
All of it.
And then, of course,
The Franco-Prussian War,
Right.
which forced her to flee Rome for a while.
it's like her life was this constant swing
It was.
between triumph and adversity.
Back and forth.
But she always perseveres.
She does.
Eventually completes the Lincoln statue,
She did it.
returns to Washington for the grand unveiling in 1871.
That must have been a moment.
It was.
All those years of effort culminating in this.
Imagine that.
The statue being unveiled in the Capitol Rotunda,
Wow.
a testament to her talent, her determination.
A permanent reminder of the president she had sculpted.
Years earlier,
It's amazing.
must have been an incredible feeling.
Of accomplishment.
Yeah.
But of course, the critics had their say.
Oh, right.
Some praised it,
Okay.
said it was a perfect likeness of Lincoln,
Captured his contemplative nature.
but others dismissed it
Really?
as uninspired, lifeless.
Wow.
It's a reminder that art is subjective.
It is.
What one person finds moving,
Right.
another might find dull.
It's also a reminder that Vinnie
Yeah. Despite her success,
Mm-hmm.
was still subject to those gendered criticisms.
that had followed her whole career,
Some critics just couldn't accept that a woman
especially a young woman.
could create something worthy of that place in the Capitol.
It's so unfair.
But regardless of what the critics said,
Right.
Vinnie Ream, at 23 years old,
Call me Sarah.
had done something truly remarkable. She created a lasting monument.
To one of America's most iconic figures.
And she did it while navigating a political and social landscape
That was totally against her.
that was often hostile to her ambition and her gender.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Her story stays with you.
It does.
It's a testament to talent, ambition, resilience.
But also
Yeah.
a reminder of the constraints, the prejudices.
That women have faced throughout history.
It makes you wonder,
What's that?
would Vinnie Ream's art have been celebrated more
Good question.
if she hadn't been a woman,
If she hadn't had to constantly fight for recognition,
defend her methods,
navigate a world that was suspicious of her?
just because she was a woman?
It's a question worth thinking about.
It is.
So we have Vinnie Ream.
Yeah.
She's conquered Washington,
Made her mark in Europe.
created this iconic Lincoln statue.
What's next for her?
Well, this is where things take an interesting turn.
Okay.
She decides to get married.
Get married.
And as was common back then, marriage for a woman
Yeah.
often meant putting her own ambitions aside.
So even after all that,
Mhm.
all that pushing against societal norms,
Right.
she ends up conforming to this more traditional role.
It's complicated.
It seems like a step backwards.
After everything she achieved,
It does.
we'll unpack this intriguing chapter of her life
Okay.
in the final part of our deep dive
Looking forward to it.
into the story of Vinnie Ream.
It's a tough one to wrap your head around.
It is.
After years of fighting for her place,
Mm-hmm.
navigating scandals, building a name,
Right.
she just steps back
It's hard to reconcile.
from her career at her peak
With the Vinnie we've come to know.
to embrace a traditional role.
Right.
It's like, what?
We have to remember the societal pressures back then.
Of course, the expectations for women.
Marrying Richard L. Hoxie.
Right, he came from a wealthy family.
Exactly.
Meant conforming to this life,
Where her art,
where her art took a back seat
maybe even seen as a negative.
to her husband's status.
It's fascinating.
It really is.
Caught between two worlds.
Right, the trailblazing artist
Breaking barriers.
and the wife expected to put her husband first.
It's a tough spot to be in.
Did she ever say anything about regretting this choice?
The sources don't really say much about her feelings then.
Okay.
But we can get some clues from what she did later.
From her actions.
Imagine having all that talent, that drive.
Yeah.
And basically being told to suppress it.
It's heartbreaking almost.
It's like being silenced,
right?
Being forced to give up.
What gave her life meaning?
Exactly.
It's even more poignant.
Because
knowing what she was going through personally.
Right. Those challenges.
Her brother's arrest.
The financial struggles.
Her son's injury.
Her own health problems.
It's just one thing after another.
It's a lot for anyone to handle.
It makes you wonder how she even coped.
And yet, she returns to sculpting.
It's like she needed it.
That creative outlet.
To deal with it all.
To express herself. But it's not the same Vinnie Ream.
Right. Not the one who took on Washington.
She's older now.
Wiser.
More pragmatic, maybe?
So how does she come back to the art world after all these years?
This is where we see her strategic thinking again.
Okay, tell me more.
Instead of going for those big national commissions,
yeah,
she focuses on a specific niche.
Which is?
States that weren't yet represented in the Capitol's statuary hall.
Brilliant.
Right.
She finds a need and fills it.
She understood the political landscape.
And how to use it to her advantage.
Exactly.
So she gets a contract to create a statue of Samuel Kirkwood,
the former governor of Iowa,
ensuring her work will be displayed prominently.
Alongside other important figures.
It's like a theme with her, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Finding these powerful figures.
Right.
And immortalizing them in marble and bronze.
It's like she's shaping the image of American leadership.
Exactly.
It's a good point.
And her journey doesn't stop there.
No, it doesn't.
She gets another commission for a statue of Sequoia.
Sequoia.
The creator of the Cherokee syllabary.
Oh, wow.
This shows her vision evolving.
It does.
Going beyond traditional political figures.
And embracing different subjects.
Sadly, she didn't live to see this last project finished.
That's right.
Vinnie Ream passed away in 1914.
At 67.
Leaving behind a legacy that's more than just her sculptures.
She was a pioneer.
She challenged gender norms.
Navigated the tricky world of Washington politics.
Left her mark on American art.
Absolutely.
It's a story that's both inspiring and a warning, you know?
What do you mean?
It shows how far we've come.
In recognizing women's achievements.
But also how far we still have to go.
That's true.
It makes you think.
About what?
Would Vinnie Ream's art be more celebrated?
If she weren't a woman?
If she didn't have to fight so hard?
For recognition. For respect.
If the world wasn't so suspicious of her?
Just because of her gender.
It's a question worth asking.
It is.
And I hope our listeners will keep exploring Vinnie Ream's incredible story.
Seek out her sculptures.
Appreciate the complexity of her life.
And the impact she had.
On American art and history.
She was a remarkable woman.
She was.